So welcome to this video, which I'm going to be talking about the Supernote A5X. Having had this now for almost a year, it gives me a chance really to think about, in retrospect, what have been some of the highlights. And what I wanted to do in this video mainly is talk about what I enjoy about the Supernote A5X and some tips on how to best use it, bearing in mind that I don't use it for all things. I don't use it for the calendar and the email and all of that, but for what I use it, some tips, and then some features that I'd like to see in the future. So straight to the video. So what have I been enjoying about the Supernote? Well, for me, I use this for a number of things. I mean, I use it for writing notes, whether it just be free thinking, where I just want to open a note and just write out my thoughts. That sometimes unblocks my thinking process, or when I have a writing project. When I'm working on my Greek, I have a file that I use for note making alongside the PC or the iPad where I'm playing a video or something else. I know this isn't for everyone, but I keep my prayer list here, and it's getting larger and larger with lots of names on it, so it just helps me to organize who I'm praying for and when. The notes I use, but I don't use this primarily for note making. I use this primarily for reading. I read EPUBs and PDFs almost exclusively on this device. And I love how easy it is on the eye when I'm indoors, when I'm outside. It's light enough in the hand. It's a delight to annotate, to write on. The size of this and how fold-upable it is, it's easy to carry around everywhere I go. This goes with me. Unlike my heavier iPad Pro, this is easy to carry with me. And it's more useful than my Kindle e-reader, because I all of the features. The digest feature is very useful as well, and I'll show you now what I mean with that. So take one EPUB I've been reading of late. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay, it is loading. It's unusual. So the digest feature is quite simple. It's when you, let's just go back a page, where I were to put square brackets around a sentence, or let's just keep it as a paragraph to keep it simple. And admit, say there's a D there at the moment, but if I go in and actually write something on it, oops, got to turn that off. So so now I go back into the file, and now it's A, so I know exactly what I've annotated. And when I go to the digest feature, there it will be listed. Now it would be good to be able to export the digest feature. I should mention that now. That would be tremendous, exporting the digest as a PDF. I'll come back to that a little bit later on, but that's so useful. But even better, and I will get rid of that actually because I don't want to clutter up the device. This is an EPUB. I can scribble all over this EPUB in a way that you just can't with a Kindle. I love that. And of course you can do the same with PDFs. Now I use this device to read, unless this is strange, it's going slower today. Let's go to Files and Starred document here. Let me choose a PDF that I've been reading recently. Okay, so this one. So this is a document that I scanned in myself. It's a book I have, but I scanned it all in simply so that I could take it with me wherever I go. PDF I find tremendously clear. You can adjust the contrast.
Daddy.
Okay, after that distraction, back to this. I can't even remember what I was talking about now, but this, the contrast you can adjust. That's right. And here I've set it to be a little bit darker. It's really terrific on the eye. And the size of this book, just to give you an idea, this is the book size, which is pretty much A5 itself. And I've trimmed the PDF page itself in order to make it a little bigger. This is ideal. I have a massive library of PDFs and EPUBs, and this is what I primarily use this device for. Now, one thing I will say, I don't use the Kindle app very often anymore, for the simple reason that it's difficult to annotate the Kindle. You've got to highlight a text and then you can type something in. I don't find that very user-friendly. Here I can scribble on the side here, so I think, well, that's a nonsense point, or I can simply add a sentence annotation. So make a note of this. By the way, 2 fingers, delete. How cool is that? That is something that's happening now. Anyway, this is what I use it for. So I convert my Kindle, that's the Mobi or AZW3 files, I convert them to EPUB. Now there is a way of stripping the DRM, I think it's called, in order to, and then to convert those files into EPUB so that you can manipulate them in the way that I've shown. I won't get into that now, but this is just me saying what I enjoy it for. I enjoy reading EPUBs and PDFs on this device. Some PDFs are a little bit more difficult than others, but that's where the zoom comes in. In fact, I will go to a document now where the zoom came in handy. When you have an article that is in 2 columns like this, zooming is incredibly useful, as you can see. And that's how I read this particular article. But sometimes the PDFs are a little bit too small on the screen. I don't tend to read them on this device, so I won't have any probably in my immediate history, although that one's pretty small. Just to give you an idea. Oh, that's okay. The Tanakh. So here the text is, I wouldn't want it smaller than this. I mean, that's just about readable, but I would actually read such small fonts on a PDF page on the Max Lumi or the iPad or on simply an A4 sheet of paper. What else to add? The starred text. This is something I've used an awful lot. So you do have here in the side the recent, but I think there's only a few. It only goes down to the bottom of the page, and I end up reading at the same time so many different files it's not particularly useful. But the starred files I use all of the time. So I simply star everything that I'm reading at the moment. Okay, I've got 103 pages of these at the moment, but everything that I have at the moment, that I'm reading at the moment, here it is, and it's easy to keep myself organized in that way. I also use Voya's daily organizer. I won't go into that file because there'll be personal information, but okay, next year's, and he's improved next year's template, by the way. So let me just go onto a random page. Here we have day jump, which was something that, oh, oops, I'm pressing it with the wrong. He has day jump, 13th, 14th of March. I just find this terrific, and I do. This is how I organize my day, how I make note of my meetings, together with syncing that with my Microsoft account, which is linked to work. What else do I like about, what have I been enjoying about the Supernote? I'd say the fact that there aren't many distractions. I can't just swipe down and go to an app and play a game or play a game of chess or something like that. I've got to focus on the task at hand. So taking this to the coffee shop keeps me focused on the task at hand. I know I've got an article to read, let's say, or I'm going through a book. It's by far and away the best way for me to stay focused. Distractions drain, and this just keeps the distractions out. I haven't really used this device for the calendar feature. I am slowly migrating some of my things over to the Google Calendar, but I just don't use it for that. So you can see it's almost empty here. I don't read it for processing Word documents or emailing. I just use my iPad for that, or my PC. What else have I enjoyed? I really enjoy the support team at Rata Supernote. Via Reddit, emails, they're a lovely bunch of people. They were kind enough to send me a replacement pen with my name on it when my other one started playing up, when there was ghost writing coming on, and among many other things. They have been tremendously helpful. I thoroughly recommend the company itself and for the support. When I've experienced that, you've just got to experience it to believe it. And I've really enjoyed as well the updates, and they have been excellent. In fact, why don't I go back into the file I was just using in order to show you some of the things that they have added. So to note, erase. I really like that. They've made it faster, snappier. They've upgraded the, what's the term? The kernel? I don't really know what it means, but they've updated something in order to make this snappier and faster. So the way the text comes off now is just faster. The two-finger swipe on notes. In fact, let me create a note now, and I will show you what I mean. Here, you can click this, two-finger swipe. I can create a new page by using 2 fingers in order to swipe. Oh, maybe I need to write on it first. There we are. There. So 2 fingers swipe. I would love that to be included on the PDF, because that's something I'm going to come back to, what I'd like to see developed in the future. The zoom function, of course, which I showed you earlier on, all of those have been updates since I purchased this, and I really appreciate the updates, the time they put into this. Right, just going to delete that because this is full enough with my massive diary, with my massive library, I mean. Okay, so there's some of the things that I've been enjoying. What I've loved about the Supernote, having used it for almost a year. Some tips. Get a solid cover. Now, if you're going to use this daily, like I have done, I recommend the leather one. I did own the blue, the cover, I forget what it's called now, the cheapest one anyway, the lightest one. I got it because it was the lightest one, but it started to fray a little, especially here where the pen connected, and it was wobbling around too much. So I recommend getting the leather one. It's the sturdiest, for sure. I would also recommend, and I think this is fairly important, especially if you're going to keep a lot of your books on here, or your documents, to generate a logical file structure. So you can see here, I'm writing a commentary on 2 Corinthians, and so I've divided everything up into essays and books, and here you can see there's different themes that I've separated it into. Ecclesia, and so on. So there's, that's just one of my projects, but I have lots of other themes and things that I'm interested in, and they're all divided up in this way. So hit theologians. Let's go to, let's say, Karl Barth. I will have the Kirchliche Dogmatik in German, the Church Dogmatics, which is the English translation, articles on Barth, the Gesamte Ausgabe. There's a number of resources related to Barth, scholarly works on Barth. Let's say I go here, the Church Dogmatics. There they all are. It's all logical, and I know exactly where to go to find everything. It takes a bit of work doing this if you haven't developed a logical file structure, but you've got to keep it updated as well, and so this is something important. Also, I recommend using a glasses lens cleaner and microfiber for keeping the cover clean. Obviously you don't want to use heavy detergents or surface cleaners, because you might damage the cover. So something that's very easy on the screen, a slight dampness, a microfiber, something like that, just to keep it as clean as possible. Also, another tip is, and I've mentioned this, is to convert MOBI or AZW3 files to EPUB. I could upload a video about how I do this perhaps at a later date, but needless to say, it is possible. Every book that I publish now on Kindle, I convert so that I can read it on this device, and I can also then adjust it. So here we have the NRSV Standard Bible with Apocrypha. This was a Kindle purchase. I did the deed, converted it, and here it is, and I can scribble all over it to my heart's content, digest feature and everything else. That's a big for me. Another thing is get a stand. You can get one like this. Where is the shot? Which you can collapse, and then you can put this on the side. You can prop up your A5X, and you can read it while typing. It's not the best camera screen shot for this, I know. Or you can get a dirt cheap one, something that's portable. I recommend that. It's useful for the reading experience, and when I'm using it and typing on my PC screen, using this as effectively a book. And finally, in terms of tips, just look after it. It's every day. It goes with me wherever I am going. You might want to think about investing in some protective case in one way, shape or form in order to slide this in. It's entirely up to you, of course, but I think if I were to be going anywhere long on a train ride, I'm just going to want to make sure that it isn't knocking up against things that can damage it. It just needs to be looked after. Okay, enough in terms of tips. Finally, what would I like with this? Now, if I were to go back to a PDF file, let's go to the Jewish Study Bible. Now here you can see at the top, text is cut out. So I really want to move that out of the way. That tells me at least where I am. The problem is when this is, I can't go to the next page. That isn't obvious here. I would love the option of having a page forward and page backwards on this, even minimized. For me, that's more important than what I'm using to annotate is the page. So when I've read the page, I'll just click here. Maybe other options for going forward with the page as well, instead of on there, to have the 2-finger swipe. That would be brilliant, because I'll often have my hand on the page and I will be writing on something. So I don't want to turn this off, because by putting my hand on it, I could accidentally flip forward or backwards or hit a hyperlink or something. I don't want to do any of that, but I do want to be able to easily go forward to the next page. So some kind of other option, maybe 3-finger swipe in one direction, forward and backward, that would be a good idea. Or as I say, including it on this somewhere. They would be dream features for me. I would like the option as well of being able to keep hyperlinks on when turning this off rather. So I can't do anything on the screen now, but sometimes it's useful for me to be able to nevertheless be able to click something to take me to the hyperlink. Maybe it's a footnote in a document. That means I've got to go up here now, then click the footnote, then go back here. So some optionality there would be ideal. I would also quite like the idea of keeping the zoom customizable in terms of what I'm zooming in on. So here it's a little bit sluggish, as you can see, but it would be good if I could maybe somehow adjust the shape of what I'm zooming in on. So for certain documents, earlier on I showed you a two column PDF. That was useful there, but if there's 3 columns or if there's 1 column and it's just the zoom is just a little bit too narrow, that's a problem. So some idea of altering that would be ideal. Okay, 2 more things that I would love. Oh, by the way, this is another update that they've come up with. So as you can see, under primary sources, and that one isn't even the largest. Let me go to pull. So 14 different pages. Here I can jump to 5 there. Before you had to go through them all. This is a brilliant update. Just again an example of they're listening to feedback and improving the device. The most important thing I would love to see in the future, however, is to be able to, and I do hope that they'll be able to figure this out, is I process hundreds of pages of EPUB documents every week. So let's say I'm, goodness, where shall I go? Let's go to one of my favorites, something I've been reading recently. Okay, well, the Karl Barth book. I have annotated intensely 384 pages of this particular document. Now, at the moment, I can only see these annotations on the A5X. And that's a problem, because what happens if this A5X breaks? All of my annotations will be gone. That makes me a little bit anxious. So this would be my most desirable update, Rata, is to be able to export the EPUB with annotations, including digest annotations, some optionality there, as annotated PDFs. So essentially, this document would be then a PDF file with these annotations on it. To be able to export this EPUB in that way would be tremendous. This would make it, for me, an even more useful device. That would be my number one, my most important desire for the future, before anything else. Anyway, I've gone through this video some of the things that I've been enjoying, my tips for using this, and some features that I'd like for the future. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the A5X? Have you got one? Are you tempted to buy one? I'm obviously not paid by Rata or Supernote or anything like that. I purchased this with my own money, but I can try and answer any questions that you have. But I highly recommend this. I'm an academic. I'm daily reading a lot. I write, and for my own work I find this tremendously useful. I've got other videos out where I describe why I prefer this over the Remarkable 2, but I also possess the Max Lumi and the iPad Pro, and I use those for different aspects of my work. But I've got to say, I think I prefer reading on this device over every other. Hope you found this video useful, and until next time.